Okay, let's dive right into this. Welcome to today's Explainer, where we're going to unpack one of the absolute most bizarre, but honestly deeply fascinating digital movements to pop up recently. I mean, imagine a political movement named after the ultimate household pest. It sounds like a total joke, right? Well, the Cockroach Janta Party, or the CJP, started out exactly like that in May 2026. But what began as a satirical punchline has literally exploded into a massive online phenomenon, grabbing the attention and definitely the anxiety of millions. So today we're going to look closely at the data and the events to figure out exactly how a meme turned into an actual movement.
To really understand where this all came from, we got to look at the spark that ignited it. During a court hearing back in May 2026, Chief Justice Syria Kant reportedly referred to unemployed youth as, quote, cockroaches and parasites. Now, normally, an insult of this magnitude coming from a high-ranking judicial figure would just spark your standard internet outrage, maybe a few angry op-eds, and then kind of fade away. But this specific phrase, it hit a serious raw nerve, and it acted as the catalyst for an entirely new kind of digital resistance.
Section 1. An unlikely origin story.
So this whole thing kicked off with Abhijit Dipki, who is a political communications strategist and a former social media worker with links to the Aam Aadmi Party. When he saw this judicial insult, he didn't just fire off an angry tweet. Instead, he saw an opportunity to channel all that collective outrage into something structural. Highly satirical, sure, but structural. He founded the Cockroach Janta Party. And honestly, what's so brilliant here is the psychological pivot. Instead of rejecting the insult, the movement just completely embraced it. They came up with the slogan, Main Be Cockroach, which translates to, I am also a cockroach. It's basically a piece of political jujitsu. They took this word meant to be demean and degrade, flipped the script, and turned it into a badge of honor. It essentially became a unifying cry for survival for young people who were feeling completely discarded by the system.
Section 2. Going viral as cockroaches. Of course, clever branding alone doesn't create a massive movement overnight. To understand why this caught fire so unbelievably quickly across India, we really have to look at the real-world issues fueling the frustration for Gen Z right now. We're talking about chronic unemployment, devastating exam paper leaks that literally ruin years of hard work, a deep-seated frustration with traditional politics, a severe lack of basic opportunities, and on top of all that, growing concerns over censorship. The whole cockroach meme wasn't just funny, it ended up being the absolute perfect vehicle to carry the heavy collective exhaustion of a generation dealing with all these systemic failures all at once.
And the scale of this resonance? Absolutely explosive. Over 1 lakh. That's over 100,000 registrations the movement secured within mere days of launching. And alongside that, they amassed millions of followers on Instagram. Actually, some reports even indicated that, for a brief period, the CJP's online footprint was larger than some of India's major established political parties. That's just wild. This wasn't just some fringe internet joke anymore. It was a total digital tidal wave.
This insane growth really comes down to a core biological metaphor, which is that they're too hard to kill. Just think about a cockroach for a second. It survives the absolute harshest conditions imaginable, right? Well, the movement adopted this exact trait to represent ignored citizens, specifically unemployed youth, who are forced to survive in a difficult, unfair, and seemingly toxic economic and political environment. The symbol basically tells this really powerful story of absolute resilience.
Moving on to Section 3. Backlash and censorship.
You know, when you make that much noise online, the powers that be are definitely going to hear it. The whole situation quickly evolved from a viral trend into a highly political and deeply controversial battleground. On one side of the aisle, we have the ruling Bharatiya Janata Party, or BJP, and various critics. They've accused the movement of being heavily PR-driven, politically biased toward the opposition, and even operating under foreign influence. There were even claims that a lot of their followers are based in Pakistan. But on the flip side, the supporters vehemently deny all these accusations. They argue that this is a totally genuine youth protest, an organic reflection of very real, very raw frustration. If you spend any time looking at online forums like Reddit, this division is just incredibly stark.
And this debate didn't just stay in the comments section, it translated into real digital action. The pushback has been severe. The movement's X, formerly Twitter account, was reportedly withheld in India, and the founder openly claimed they were being actively censored. On top of that, their official website allegedly faced takedowns, and their massive Instagram activity was reportedly disrupted. Basically, the entire digital infrastructure of the movement was being systematically challenged.
Which naturally leads us to ask this absolutely critical question. Where exactly is the line between online satire and political dissent? The disruption of the CJP's online presence has sparked these intense national debates about free speech, the actual role of internet satire, and the extent of government pressure. I mean, at what point does a meme stop being a joke and start being seen as a genuine threat to the establishment?
That brings us to Section 4, more than just memes. To really answer that question about dissent, we have to look past the humor, because right behind the sarcastic slogans and the funny insect avatars, there's actually a real structural foundation being built here. First off, let's clarify their official status. Are they a real political party? Well, not officially, at least not yet. According to their own website, the CJP states that they are currently operating more as a digital protest movement and a satire campaign. However, and this is a big however, they also note that formal election commission registration is currently in progress, so they are actively attempting to make the leap from the digital world to the physical ballot box.
So the crucial point here is the contrast. In the realm of what we could call meme reality, we see all this viral satire and digital protest that rakes in the likes and the shares. But if you cross over to their actual political demands, taken straight from their manifesto, it's a completely different story. They are demanding real transparency through the Right to Information Act, absolute judicial independence, electoral accountability, the protection of free speech, and critically, honest employment data. These are incredibly serious, highly structural demands just dressed up in the clothing of an internet joke.
Let's look at Section 5, the bigger picture.
Even if they never end up winning a single seat in an actual election, you might wonder why political analysts are paying such close attention to the Cockroach Janta Party. It's really because of what it represents at its core. It is a direct manifestation of this boiling anger among unemployed youth. It exposes a really profound distrust, not just in the ruling government, but also in traditional opposition parties who have basically failed to capture this specific demographic's imagination. Most importantly, though, it showcases this fascinating evolution of internet meme culture turning directly into real-world political activism. It's a digital protest movement that perfectly mirrors global trends we are seeing everywhere today.
As we start to wrap up this explainer, I really want to leave you with a quote from a documentary perspective that perfectly summarizes this wild trajectory. They noted, quote, "What began as a joke about cockroaches quickly transformed into one of India's biggest online protest movements. It just goes to show that in the digital age, you can never, ever underestimate the power of a shared inside joke." The quote then concludes by stating, quote, "Whether it becomes a real political force or fades as internet satire, the Cockroach Janta Party has already exposed a deeper reality, a generation increasingly frustrated, digitally connected, and no longer willing to stay silent. They managed to find their voice, oddly enough, in the very word that was used to dismiss them in the first place." So I'm going to leave you with this final thought to ponder. Will meme activism become the new face of political survival? As traditional politics continues to struggle to connect with a digitally native generation, we might just be witnessing the birth of a completely new way to protest, survive, and demand real change. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. Keep questioning, keep learning, and I'll see you next time.